What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cowboy Talk with Rob Johnson. Episode 6 here on the Rob Johnson Media, and the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Let me make sure everybody can hear me. Again, let me make sure everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, there we go. The audio. I had my Bluetooth on. Sorry about that, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for Cowboys Talk here. Rob Johnson bringing Cowboy Talk episode 6. If you don't know, I did about 5 episodes a couple of years back, and now I am back with Cowboys Talk episode 6. I did 5. Welcome to the Blue Room. Welcome to the Blue Room. This is the Blue Room. This is where I'll be doing my shows, talking about the Dallas Cowboys, representing the Stephon Diggs, the Trayvon Diggs jersey. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? Who's here to talk about Dallas Cowboys? Who's here to talk about everything Dallas Cowboys? Now. Let's get into some people. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be biased, but I'm also going to be a little biased on this Cowboys talk. And that's how I'm going to be with most of the shows. Let's talk about some people. Let's talk about this guy first of all. Do you see this guy right here? This guy's name is Stephen A. Smith. He loves to keep the Cowboys in his mouth. He keeps the Cowboys in his mouth more than a COVID test at times. This guy right here, Stephen A., all he does is talk about the Cowboys, talks about them 24 hours a day. There's so many teams in the NFL that he can talk about, but he chooses to talk about the Cowboys. And why does Stephen A. choose to talk about the Dallas Cowboys? Well, ladies and gentlemen, to me, it's quite simple. He likes to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because they are worth talking about. The Dallas Cowboys make everybody want to talk football. If it wasn't for the Dallas Cowboys, you guys ever think about on a bye week when there's no Cowboys football, everybody seems a little depressed. Everybody seems like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Even during the Super Bowl, they were talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And they love to talk about Dak Prescott. Dak isn't this, Dak isn't that. And I get it. Dak Prescott has struggled in the playoffs. He's had times where he's looked a little better on the edges. I get all that. But do you remember some of the Dallas Cowboy quarterbacks that were on this roster? Do you remember they had the Ryan Leafs and old Randall Cunningham? They had Quincy Carter. They had guys that didn't even belong in the National Football League. Not until Tony Romo came along, who was an undrafted free agent, not like Dak, who took his team, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, to #1 in the nation. Everybody likes to talk about the SEC, but everybody glosses over the fact that Dak Prescott had the Mississippi State Bulldogs #1 in the nation. And he brought that to the NFL. Again, welcome to the Blue Room. Welcome to the Dallas Cowboys Room. Episode 6, Cowboys Talk. With me, Rob Johnson. I am here to talk Cowboys. Again, I will not be biased all the time. Rob Johnson, Sports Talk with Rob Johnson, the Rob Johnson talk show and all that stuff. I will talk about other teams. I won't be biased. And I never talk about the Cowboys. That's why I made this show, so I could specifically talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Because so many of you out there love talking about them. You hate them so much. You hate to love the Dallas Cowboys so much. You know why? Because they're so relevant. They're worth $9+ billion. You can't really talk sports, so all you can do is clown the Cowboys. Talk about they haven't won a championship. I haven't been to an NFC championship since 95, 96. Boo-hoo. You know how many teams haven't even been to a Super Bowl? You know how many teams haven't won a championship? But yet still, a lot of you keep the Dallas Cowboys in your mouth. You keep Dak Prescott in your mouth. A guy who went in the third, fourth round and took the Mississippi State Bulldogs to #1 when Alabama was at their peak. What did Tony Romo do? He went to Eastern Michigan, Eastern Illinois, wherever the hell he went. He didn't do what Dak did. All right. You look at I'm gonna bring the stats up. Yeah, I bring stats. Dak Prescott, his career, 29,459 yards, 202 touchdowns, 74 interceptions. That's it. That's it. This man is on pace to get to 40, 50,000 yards if he can stay healthy. And that's another thing. Dak Prescott has stayed healthy throughout the years. He's done what a lot of quarterbacks can't do, and that's stay healthy. Even though he's had trials and tribulations, they didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to give him what he deserved. He is a true Dallas Cowboy. And you guys, especially this clown, Stephen A. Smith, likes to go in on Dak. But we don't talk about you, Stephen A. What about your Pittsburgh Steelers? Yes, they've won a championship or two since 95, 96. But just remember, Dallas beat them in the Super Bowl, so maybe you need to get some revenge on that. However, what have the Pittsburgh Steelers been doing the last few years? The Cowboys, of course, yes, playoff failures. And I'll tell anybody, they weren't beating San Francisco this year. Hell, I didn't know if they were even going to beat the Lions in the second round. So, and the Green Bay Packers were a good team. So, for all of you clowns out there who weren't giving the Packers their respect, I told you before the game how good Green Bay was. All of you slept on Green Bay. All of you thought, oh, man, these Cowboys are going to beat Green Bay by 30, 40 points. You don't know football if you think Dallas was going to win by that amount. Also, everybody else gets the benefit of the doubt. And again, not saying excuses, not using excuses. But you have Leighton Vander Esch, who's a very important linebacker. He gets hurt. He goes out. You also have Diggs, who is one of their most important corners. He gets hurt early in the season. After that, the team goes down. In fact, I want to go back to the stats again. The Cowboys won, 12 games again this year? Let's look at how things really could have went this year, all right? The Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants. They beat the Jets. They lost to the Cardinals. They were missing half their offensive line. They couldn't run the ball worth a damn, which you all have to understand. When the Dallas Cowboys are at their best, when they're winning championships, no matter what the league says, they can run the football. They beat the Patriots. They get stomped by the 49ers, which I told everybody was going to happen. They beat the Chargers, beat the Rams. They lose to the Eagles. That Eagles game was it just pissed me off so much because they had so many chances to win. And it looked so bad on the team. And they need to regroup themselves. They beat the Giants, beat the Panthers, destroy the Commanders. They beat the Seahawks, beat the Eagles. They lose to the Bills, a game that they should have been in, but they weren't. They lose to the Dolphins by 2. They beat the Lions, and they close the season out by beating those hapless Commanders. Let me tell you all something. And speaking of Commanders, why is it that so many Commanders have the audacity to keep the Dallas Cowboys in their mouths? Why is it that, the worst thing that could have happened for anyone is Sam Howell winning that game, was it 2 years ago? Last game of the season? And I ask you all this question. If they believed in Sam Howell so much, then why wasn't Sam Howell playing against the Browns? If you guys remember, you think about it. A game before that, the Washington Commanders could have won the game against Cleveland. They could have secured themselves a playoff spot by beating Cleveland and beating Dallas. They would have been in the playoffs. But no, they weren't focused on Cleveland. They weren't worried about making the playoffs. Their Super Bowl was beating the Dallas Cowboys, who I knew was probably going to lose the damn game anyway, because I knew that the Eagles were going to beat the Giants. That's their Super Bowl. That's always their Super Bowl. And I have respect for the Washington Commanders. I've covered games there. But the obsession with the Dallas Cowboys is utterly ridiculous. I don't think about the Commanders when I get up in the morning. I don't think about the Commanders when I go get my morning coffee or my morning breakfast. I mean, these guys think about Dallas 24/7. I mean, these guys are literally thinking about Dallas, and it's not even really a rivalry anymore. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. Florida, Miami, that's still a rivalry. Those are two teams that are still rivals because they're in the same state and, they've split some games over the years. But Dallas and Washington, what has Washington done besides the year that Dak got hurt, besides the game last year, a couple years back when Dallas wasn't going to win that? Dallas didn't worry about winning that game. They went in, won a playoff game, lost to San Francisco. They could have beaten Washington, but they knew Philly was going to win. So that's my point, guys. It's not an excuse. It's just, it is what it is. The Commanders are always obsessed with the Cowboys. And I don't get it. They beat them every single year. They've been beating them bad for the last 20 plus years. The Eagles, I'll say this about the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans. I have the ultimate respect for the Eagles because at least they bring it. The Eagles have at least been to a couple Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. The Giants have at least been to a couple Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. When's the last time Washington's been to a Super Bowl? When was the last time Washington's even been close to an NFC Championship game? You always talk about us. You always talk about what we need to do. But guess what? At one time, the Washington, at the time, Redskins were America's team. They had America's team aura about them. They were one of the more important teams in the National Football League. So this is what I'll say. I'm going to wrap this up. My next show is going to be a little more detailed, a little more organized when it comes to talking about certain topics. But this episode 6 was just to address everyone, address all you people out there who keep talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I promise you, there are 31 other teams. And if you're in this media game and that's all you talk about on your regular shows, and that's all you always mention, get some new content, man. Get some new content. The Robb Johnson Sports Show, I probably mentioned the Cowboys in over, I don't know what, 42 episodes? I probably mentioned them once. Don't give them much time because there are other things in sports that need credence. But for all you people out there, all you people who are obsessed, who are just driven, you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my God, the Dallas Cowboys. This show is for you. I'm going to talk Cowboys all the time. Every time. I'm going to make it so that you're so sick by football season, you're going to hate them even more. Because the more you hate them, the bigger they get. We them boys. Next show, I'm going to talk draft strategy, and I'm going to talk about what the Dallas Cowboys need to do to improve their team. So until next time, which will be in a couple of days from now, this has been Robb Johnson for Cowboy Talk with Robb Johnson. And again, keep on hating the Dallas Cowboys. Keep on talking about them. Talk about them even more than you talk about your own team. Because the more you talk about them, the richer Jerry Jones gets, the bigger the name gets. And no matter what you say, no matter how you feel, at the end of the day, the quest for 6 is always on. It doesn't matter if they don't win it this year, next year, 5, 10 years. The quest for 6 is coming. And that's a lot better than a lot of you teams who got 0. You ain't got no championships. You ain't got no aura. You don't have any prestige. You don't have the Hall of Famers. You don't have. See, here's the crazy thing. A lot of you see your teams because they're on local TV. The Cowboys are national. Is anybody checking? Does anybody want to see the Commanders nationally? No. Does anybody want to see the Giants nationally? Maybe. Does anybody want to see the Eagles nationally? Probably. So you look at the Cowboys, then it's the Eagles, then it's the Giants, and then it's the Commanders. And again, Commanders fans, I have nothing but respect for you. But why do you love talking about Dallas so much? Why don't you focus on your team? Fix your stadium. You don't even have a name anymore. Fix your stadium. And there are people out there who just love to just talk about Dallas all the time. Again, I don't think about you guys. I'm just only talking about you now because you're on my show and I have to address you. But other than this, I don't think about you. But I guarantee you, there are Commanders fans like, this is going to be our year. You're not thinking about championships. You're not thinking about MVPs. You think about beating Dallas because it does something for your mind. I think it's a sickness. I think it's a real sickness. Seek help immediately. Now, again, for Cowboy Talk with Robb Johnson, I will see you next time. We them boys. Peace out.